And we are recording with Mr. Tom Luongo on Monday, May 6th, 2024 at 10:05 a.m. Eastern Time, talking about the ensuing hilarity of, and also kind of just schizophrenia of it is an odd thing to see. It's odd enough to see kind of the left cheering on, war in Ukraine, but it's equally odd, and it seems to be lost on them. It seems to be odd kind of conservatives cheering on the use of the state to crack down protests, right? And I get it. I mean, there's a bad taste in everybody's mouth from 2020. That was actual property damage and actual deaths. But it is
Hmm.
kind of weird just being like, yeah, eat a dick, commies. It's like I get the sentiment, but this will be used on you. This will be used
Well,
on you, and it's just
Tommy, this is
bootlicking
even more.
conservatives. Yeah,
This is even more. You're fine, Camille. My wife is going to walk through the
you're
background. It's
good.
fine.
You're good.
The She forgot. She slammed the door, and I saw her like look over, and she's like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" It's just Tommy Carrigan, dude. It's like
Good. Just me.
it's not
All
not
right.
like this is it's not
Yeah.
like this is high art or anything.
No, 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 no,
No,
no. We're
listen.
not listening to Beethoven.
Yeah. So the funny part about this is that as I was chatting with some people over the weekend, and I was putting I'm like, this thing's a setup. There's something really weird going on here, and I got myself involved in I don't know on everybody's last nerve on Saturday when I saw a tweet by a person like someone I respect in this part of the commentary at like then take uh, uh, everybody knows what the Twitter thing is because I did it immediately and I didn't want to throw anybody under the bus. I just wanted to point out that this is the wrong framework for what's going on with these campus protests and what's going on with Israel and Palestine and everything else. And for the most part, I haven't like shied away from this this conversation, but at the same time, the reason I haven't gone whole hog into it is because I don't have it's like not having a good handle on it until as I would put it, the entire plot finally
Yeah.
reveals itself. Like there's sometimes like, it's like, and I immediately pinged you and I said, you and I need to do a free speech cast. And that's why we're doing this morning. Cause it's like, okay, I'm going to start with an obscure reference. If you ever watched Doctor Who,
No, but I know of it.
okay, so one of the interesting things about Doctor Who is that the structurally each episode is that the Doctor is the only one that knows the plot of what's the real conflict of what's going on, and he doesn't reveal that until about 40 minutes into the episode. And you're left as the viewer going, "What in the is going on here? I don't under." So this thing is just unraveling while you're trying to figure out, while you're trying to tease out what the actual conflict is, because it doesn't make any sense until the Doctor finally explains it to you, and he's already got his plan in motion, and he's about to, turn the tables on, do the thing, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that makes Doctor Who interesting as a as a storytelling device, as a television show. Aside from the fact that the Doctor is one of the great fucking freaking libertarian heroes of all time because he uses the freaking screwdriver and his wits to solve every problem, right?
Yeah.
So, which is fascinating that Doctor Who comes out of the fucking British. Um, so here's my problem. It's very obvious, and now we know. Hell, Politico just ran an article yesterday on this. Oh, by the way, who's behind the campus protest? You'd be surprised. Like, no, really? Would you be surprised? Only if you're a freaking normie, which is that it's Soros and all the typical Davosians turning this thing, hijacking what started as honest to God, you know, organic, you know, protests against what Israel's doing in Gaza and have now turned it into the latest iteration of Occupy Wall Street, which started as a protest against racism, was then hijacked to turn it
Mhm.
into a anti-banking thing, or COVID, or the Maidan in Ukraine, or the Arab Spring, or this or that, and so everybody's, and then all of a sudden, all I said was these are not organic at this point, and in originally I'm defending a soundbite from Tulsi Gabbard saying, look, one of the biggest problems that we face is this radical Islamist. Now, she doesn't say weird offshoot of Islam because, well, she has her own biases, but anybody who knows anything about this understands that, Islam as a concept is, and as a religion is as multifaceted as Christianity is and Judaism is. And there are good weird sects of it, and there are, subsects of it, and there are good And then there's the religion itself, and there's the teachings, and look, everybody, and we live in a fallen world. It was interesting. I was listening to Ian McGilchrist talk last night. We live in this kind of fallen left brain world where no one's allowed to be um, inconsistent on anything. And he
Mm-hmm.
actually made the point where it's like, look, inconsistency is actually the hallmark of an open mind, one that's actually trying to search for answers, as opposed to just sitting there locked into their left brain going, no, I know the fucking truth, and this is the way things are, and fuck you, and blah, 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 blah. And of course, I of course, the minute I try to interject any of that into this narrative, everybody comes down on me like a ton of bricks. And all of a sudden, Tommy, I am a Zionist. I know you didn't know this, but absolutely, as everybody knows now, I'm a Zionist, and I want to see Jews take over the world
Mm-hmm.
along with their British paymasters, and subjugate everybody under hoping for the rapture.
Mm.
Just FYI.
Just as
And
an aside.
I'm also a racist and a variety of other things as well now. But so what's fascinating about this? I'm like, really? You can't see the hand of Soros on this? It's so beyond the pale to think that these would be used in some horrible way to advance globalism? Really? You can't see this. Patrick Henningsen, Daniel McAdams, and others who, now to Daniel's credit, he apologized to me behind later in the day after I explained my position further. But here's the thing. I've been warning everyone for 3 years now that we're going to have a massive shift to the right, that the
Mm-hmm.
right is going to become ascendant as a snapback ab reaction to the insanity of the woke left.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's coming. It's here, folks. It's already in front of you. And what have I been telling you for 3 years? We cannot become the Fremen from Dune. We cannot become the people who have been beaten down so far that when we finally get a chance to express ourselves, we vent our spleen in a horrible, violent, anti-principled position. So now all of a sudden we see people supposedly committed to peace siding with protesters who are shouting, I hope that 10-7 happens to Jews 1,000 times more than what happened to the Palestinians.
Mm.
That's who these people are aligning themselves with. If they deny the idea that this is somehow not an astroturfed, partially astroturfed environment. Okay. This is not an absolute. I'm not absolving Israel of anything that they've done. I'm not absolving Hamas of anything that they've done. I know that there's propaganda on both sides. Okay. And everybody at this point needs to get their heads screwed on straight. No different than when everybody was telling us that Ukraine was winning, or that the Russians, killed civilians in the street at Bucha, which we know was a staged event by British intelligence, blah, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
So the very people who called bullshit on all of these former false flag color revolution attempts, or successful or otherwise, all of a sudden can't see the color revolution angle on these protests here in the United States in an election year. The same way we all went, the same way we were forced to be shut up during BLM riots, where they were burning down American cities 4 years ago in order to stop Trump. We can't see that. That's beyond the pale. That makes me a Zionist. Okay. If you're cool with that, bro, you just put it on fucking record in public, because that's not what I said. That's not what I meant, or in any way, manner, shape, or form, not what's actually happening. Okay. So with that said, let's really talk about what's going on. Because, dude, this is so complicated that I may need the normal 2.5 hour bald guys cast to get this shit done. It's crazy. I wrote a piece for my patrons yesterday as a journal entry for a public blog post on this, and it literally was so long that I don't know. It was like, these are normally just journals. They take like 4 or 5 minutes to read maximum. This is like a 20-minute article, right? Trying to explain what this is all about. clearly we are now in an environment where it's okay to criticize the Jews. Does anybody
Mm-hmm.
notice this?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so everybody who has all this pent up frustration, a la the Fremen, about not being able to talk about the Jews for all these years, now all of a sudden want to get that out of their system, and they're being grafted onto a series of astroturfed protests that look a whole lot like, the anti-oil crowd and the anti-climate change crowd and all the rest of it. We got tent cities. They're all it's they're all um they're all in brand new freaking tents,
Mm-hmm.
right? Same, they still have the creases in them, no different than the Nazi flags that the white supremacists are
The
always.
pallets of bricks in 2020. It's
Mhm. Right. So this is like it's all right there, right? So now you have to ask yourself, okay, why am I being gaslit this way? And I want to, like, there's so many ways to approach this, but let's start with a couple of heuristics. And the first one being the one everybody now thinks they know, which is whoever you're not allowed to criticize is who rules you. We all kind of operate in this space on that principle,
sure.
right? I do, you do. We've all done it. We've all made that argument. The older I get, the more I do this, the deeper we get into this period of history. I'm now thinking that the right heuristic here is whoever rules us is telling us who we're allowed to be angry at this moment in time,
Including themselves.
including themselves. So we go around the horn. So during BLM, it was okay for whites to be mad at black people. Today, it's okay for everybody to be angry with the Jews.
Hmm.
Okay. All of a sudden, who they want us to hate is what is behind is what's pushing a particular agenda in a particular direction. Now, I've been saying for a long time, and I know Jim Kunstler and I know Jim Kunstler's talked about this a lot, but he and I have never really spoken about these things together. But I've been saying for an awfully long time, for well before you guys, you ever even knew who the fuck I was. When I used to do live streams for 30 people in 2017, 2018, and we all sat there going, Netanyahu, if you don't stop this, if you don't stop the path that you're on, you're gonna wind up turning the Jews into the scapegoats for all the world's ills. You're gonna turn the world against the Jews, and then they're gonna wind up being the scapegoats for the global violence. And I'm
Which
like,
might
well,
be
yeah, that
what
makes sense.
which might be what they want.
Exactly. Exactly. In the same way that they made radical Islamists, right, the problem when they created that problem. And we
Mm-hmm.
all know that Netanyahu was in the West were instrumental in creating Hamas as an antipode to the PLO to pour all the Palestinians into, so that he could deal with Hamas, which was supposedly better than dealing with the PLO. Because remember, it's like ISIS. Hamas is just like ISIS, just like the PLO is, the Russian equivalent of a radical Islam group, right? Like, look, free Palestine in the 20th century has been nothing but a geopolitical football between the West and Russia going back to the 50s. This is nothing new, right? So, and this is not to say that the Palestinians deserve a homeland or this or that. None of that stuff. It's just to understand. You have to understand the context of this. These aren't just facts that exist in some order that you want to put them in, and then draw a conclusion. You have to put all those facts into context and ask the larger questions. So now, with that in mind, we have it's all of a sudden it's okay to hate the Jews, right? So now, why would they do that? I'm asking you. I want you to give me an idea of why you think they would do that.
Galvin, I mean, just pure, just psychopath. Galvanize your own people to be justified, which is very good for them because everyone has mandatory conscription there. So you got a pretty big military. But also, you can kind of, as long as I've been alive since 1990, and probably rightfully so, there's always been hey, man, and this is, accepting that I'm sure half of the people watching this are like, it didn't happen. But you take the Holocaust and you go, this is why they're so militant. And you go, oh, I mean, suppose that is a good reason. I mean, turn people into lampshades. Yeah, I'd probably be a little on edge too.
Mhm.
Seems like that maybe that argument has been fading. It's too far in the past now. It's all black and white photos. You need another one. You need a 4K Twin Towers coming down. Hey, this is why we're gonna go bulldoze the Middle East. And in hindsight, 20 years hindsight, you can look at America and go, "Eh, probably shouldn't have done that." Mind you, we killed about 100 times as many people as they've killed in Gaza. But you watch, people jumping to their death and exploding on the sidewalk, and you go, "Well, I mean, I get why they're kind of angry, right?" No
Right.
one on September 12th started questioning the TSA, right? So
Well,
I would say
I
they
did, but
sure, but sure, but
that's
sure.
I was always that guy,
One
and
in a
I remember
billion. Everyone else
right,
was like, "Shut up,
but
Tommy."
but on October 8th, no one was really questioning,
So my
Israel's.
point
Yeah.
is that I think they wanted it to be a 9/11, and it doesn't seem to be.
Mhm.
So I'd imagine that they're trying to build a groundswell of, and this is why we got to go do X, Y, and Z. The whole what was that
That's
speech Netanyahu just gave last week? He's like, he's like, the Goyim will not defend us, and he's like Franklin Roosevelt said we will not. He said he will not lose a single pilot over the concentration camps. Sure, that war also ended 79 years ago.
right.
Doesn't mean it's not relevant, but it also ended 79 years ago, and he's using that to, I think it was the Knesset or the Mossad. He's saying like, and this is why we need to do X, Y, and Z, right? It does work if you. I'm not saying it's morally or ethically right. I'm saying if you are
Right.
trying to consolidate power
Right.
and advance
This
your own
is
agenda, that's exactly what you would do.
okay. That's great, and that's a kind of an angle. It's part of it. It's part of the bigger picture and I think that's certainly part of it. I'm
Sure.
just thinking more prosaically for 2024 in an election year. You know that you can get the GOP to come out and support Israel at a time when Israel is acting terribly. So, what is Biden
Okay,
trying to do?
I don't know, Paul.
Biden is trying
Okay,
to,
okay, I get what you're saying.
yeah,
We're looking at it from the
Biden's
United
trying to
States
turn
point of view.
himself into the peace candidate
Gotcha. No,
and
you're
trying to
looking at
tie Trump to
to
the
the
war.
Israel. All right, no, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about as
Yeah, no,
Israel.
I mean that's
Yeah,
fair.
no,
And
it is splitting the conservative groups now because you have people being like, you have like the kind of the faux conservatives like Israel's our greatest ally. And you have other people being like, yo, fuck all these fucking wars. Like, no, fuck this
right,
shit, right? How come we
right,
can't? Why do we sit around and go, ha ha ha, fag, retard, feeling I don't give a shit about your feelings, but then you have half the conservatives gone and no one criticized Israel. It's like, no, criticize everyone. Call me a
right,
fucking faggot. Like, who
right.
cares? And that is effectively dividing the rights. I didn't even thought about that.
So yeah, so what you have is what you have and it's deeper than this because what's always the goal with these fucking globalists?
Power erosion of civil liberties,
Destroy the United States.
primarily.
They have to destroy the United States. Don't get too high concept here. These are very elemental people.
That's the
Destroy the
last
United
stand
States.
between
You
global
destroy the
tyranny.
United States, the capital has to go somewhere else. Has to be frozen and stay where it is. You invalidate the idea of the American experiment, right? Of individual sovereignty having trumping governmental power. These people are communists. Let's not kid ourselves. Okay, think elementally here
Mhm.
how they are going to get this stuff done. So, but at the same time, as I've pointed out many times, and again, really complicated. But if you go back through the history here and you look at it carefully, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Israel is split in half, is being targeted for divide and rule. They're a mess. Why are they being split in two? Between the British faction represented by Netanyahu, who want control over the maritime sea routes and to keep Asia separated from Africa, okay, through all of these maritime choke points. Who's going to control those are very important. Go back to the BRICS. What did the BRICS add in August of last year? They added the 5 countries that are the most important for controlling the maritime sea routes. I told you this on previous Bald Guys casts, right?
Mhm.
We've talked about this. So then 8 weeks later, we have a major conflagration between Hamas and Israel.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that it was a false flag. I'm not saying that it was, but somebody ran an operation. What
And
kind of
somebody
operation?
and
I
somebody
don't know.
benefited from it.
You fill it in here. I don't have an answer, but I'm telling you that the timing in that there are no coincidences in geopolitics. and then look at where we are. So
Hmm.
what's the goal? So when you think, it's not even just what's the goal, it's how many different ways can we utilize this particular conflict to advance our goals? And there's like 4 or 5 of them.
And
The main one being get the United States involved in a war that it can't afford to fight, bankrupt it, destroy it, culturally set everybody against each other over what's going on, right? So you've got now a generational divide
hmm
in the United States with the young kid. It's the young generation is split. They thought they were going to take the youngsters and appeal to their hearts and minds and get them en masse around the country to rise up against the man, right? And at the same time, of course, you would expect the Israeli agents that we have in our Congress to react exactly the way they have, which
hmm
is to justify the war. We have 2 different generational experiences in the interpretation of the events of October 7th. Because look, no one is absolving Israel's right to strike back at Hamas for what Hamas did.
Sure.
What Hamas did, it wasn't a false flag, folks. People fucking died.
Yeah.
Okay. Hamas are a bunch of fucking animals.
Yeah.
Okay. They're a bunch of fucking animals.
Yeah.
Just like ISIS is a bunch of fucking animals, just like Harir,
Boko Haram.
HTS, Tahrir al-Sham are fucking are fucking animals, blah, 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 blah. This thing is, and look at the geopolitical, just look at all of the divisions. Turkey now has cut off all trade with Israel. So now we're splitting, Jews versus Sunnis. And then, we're getting the Sunnis and the Shias to come together and go, nope, the Jews suck. Like, it's all coming together in one fell swoop. You have, let's
Mhm.
split the American electorate, reverse the one place where Trump is. Let's destroy one of the places where Trump is strong, meaning he wants no more wars, which of course we can't have. Netanyahu understands that if there are no more wars, then he loses the support of the military-industrial complex, which is the only thing keeping him in fucking power.
Mhm.
Okay, so like there's same thing with Biden, by the way. The intelligence services and the military-industrial complex are the only things that put him in power.
Mhm.
They want him to stay in power because and then what bargain is Trump gonna? Because we know that Trump is going to turn on the intelligence agencies,
Uh-huh.
if for nothing else, out of
And of
vindication of the shit that they
revenge
put him through personally,
and rightful revenge. Yeah, it's
and rightful revenge. Right. So at the end of the day, everybody is righteously and rightfully angry about the things that are happening, and everybody feels justified in their anger, and the whole thing is a complete fucking nightmare.
don't forget even the left is you see some division. You have people being like,
Yes.
it's like Slava Ukraini, and then it's like, but I'm against Israel, and it's like, well, what? I thought we were for that, and then you have people going, well, I do feel kind of, I didn't care about the Azov battalion because fuck Russia, but they're like, now it's getting kind of weird because like, am I supposed to protest against Israel and be for the Azov
But
battalion
still,
all the while call Trump a Nazi? There is, you start to
right.
see it's everywhere.
Perfect.
The hairline fractures are just everywhere.
Right. And the cognitive dissonance is everywhere.
Yeah.
One of the things I need, and so one of the things that I was trying to point out, and I didn't do a very good job of in my Twitter spat the other day, is the following, and it's a line that is a crib from something I heard recently. I think it might have been, of all people, Teal Swan, saying that why are your parents so good at pushing your buttons? Well, because they installed them.
That's good.
Well, guess what? Why are we so triggered by certain things in geopolitics? Because the narcissists who control the Overton window installed them.
Why did the CIA assassin snap when you said butterscotch? Because that's his fucking activation key in MK Ultra.
Right. So in this case, it's, oh my God, we finally get a chance to hate the Jews. Why do you hate the Jews? Because that
Weren't
trigger
allowed
was
to.
installed in you, the same way that your hatred of radical Islam was installed in you, the same way that your hatred of Trump was installed in you. They programmed these triggers into us. Okay. And anybody who stands around and goes, wait, I don't, no, I'm not playing that game. Immediately, everybody turns on you and goes, What the fuck, dude? You're a Zionist too?
You Zionist, you fucking terrorist, you pro
You
Russia, you pro
terrorist,
China,
you
you pro
you
Taiwan,
climate denier, you vaccine denier, you anti-science asshole, you corporatist shill, you Russian
you
stooge.
imperial
I've been
pup,
called
you
every one
fucking.
of those things.
So have I, and I don't even know what half of them
Okay?
mean. Yeah, and it seems to be total global fog of war.
Yeah, it's insane, right? So this is where we are over this. And this is why when I started seeing this happen, I'm like, oh, this is a setup. This is exactly what I was talking about 7 years ago. Again, not to absolve Israel for slaughtering and starving children, slaughtering civilians, not any of this stuff. Not absolving Hamas for killing children on the other side. Not absolving anybody here. They all suck. They're all expressing their own pent up frustration and anger and everything else in the most deleterious way. And guess what? They've been they've had these same triggers installed to the point of hating each other willing to starve the other one's children.
Mm,
That's the tragedy, folks. That's the fucking problem. So now let's talk about what's really going on, or more appropriately, how this can be used.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
now let's talk about this I don't know, Anti-Semitism Awareness Act that was passed
Yeah.
by Congress.
But and
Notice the timing on this.
I've got an episode scheduled with my Jewish friend, and
Okay,
he
so
ordered some
let's
sideburns and a big hat, and I ordered a Hamas scarf. It's gonna be great.
okay,
We're gonna get banned.
let's go. It's going to be hilarious. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is what I think. One, Trump wrote the executive order
Mm-hmm.
changing the definition in 2019 or 2018. It's
Mm-hmm.
been This law has been in effect for five years, but no one's been ever willing to. Well, certainly Biden's not going to act on it, okay, because as through an executive order, because because the real problem here is anti-white racism and the Civil Rights Act, which has been the big. It's not an NGO style thing where we pump money into U.S. aid, and then U.S. aid goes out and starts and foments a color revolution in Georgia or Armenia or wherever. It's the domestic version. I finally figured this out while watching this play out. I'm like, oh, right. We've been preferentially spending, pumping money into college campuses and all these other places to support women's sports, this group, that group, this group, that group, at the expense of normal people.
Mm-hmm.
We've done it. It's been done on purpose to advance egalitarianism, cultural Marxism, and have it metastasize into what we have today, right? And it's metastasized into something that they can't control because none of these people who are actually doing this, who are actually pushing these things forward, are controllable. George Soros is the fucking Joker. Obama, the Joker. These people just want to see the world fucking burn. Okay, they have a plan. That plan is burn the fucking old world down and then offer you a replacement that looks an awful lot like Minority Report.
Mm.
Right? As I've said many times. Which is why these fucking crazy people are all obsessed with Philip K. Dick, but that gets into Ian McGilchrist and the left right brain thing, and I don't want to go there right now. I don't want to muddy these waters any further than I already have. So so it's the Civil Rights Act that's actually the thing that they're most worried about now, because if you look at what's happened, like it or not, folks, majority of people in America still support Israel.
Mm.
This is a asset if you're trying to undo the Civil Rights Act, because now you're saying to me that it's okay for on college campuses, it's a free speech issue, it's a First Amendment issue to be able to put your thumb on the scale and pour money into anti-Jewish protests on campus, or pro-Palestinian protests, but they're really anti-Israeli protests, which are really anti-white protests. No different than BLM, no different than Occupy Wall Street, no different than the Maidan or any of the fuck all of this shit. It's all part of the same process. And now you have the federal government just reiterate Trump's executive order. It's nothing more than an advisement. we're going to take the money away. You want to protest on campus? You want to call Jews hateful names? You want to play that game? You go right ahead. But the college campuses are no longer going to get any money for this. That's the brilliant part of this. The money flow stops. Stephen Miller and his friggin' pack are suing in courts all over the friggin' country on every issue imaginable over Title VI. Winning in circuit and appellate courts, not even having to go to the fucking Supreme Court on this. This is, look, like everything else, you have to think strategically. Sometimes you have to use a thing that you don't agree with as an asset to get a thing that you want.
Yeah.
How many times have I argued this point?
Yeah.
This basic point.
Get the bigger.
You're going to ally with somebody or some group that you don't like for whatever reason, and that's between you, your creator, and your conscience, and the guy in the fucking mirror. I'm not passing judgment here on any of this.
Sure.
Shit. Okay. I have my own opinions on Hamas, on the Hamas-Israeli conflict. It's probably mostly uninformed and uninteresting. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
All I care about is what all this shit means to the people who are trying to destroy us all and trying to herd us into freaking camps, put us in 15-minute cities, feed us fucking bugs, and saying, if you don't like what we have for you, here's your suicide pod.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, no, fuck you. I'm not living in that world.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the threat. And everything I see, rightly or wrongly, is filtered through that lens
to get us to that point.
Call my analysis to taste, folks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You have to filter everything into, they want me on the train. How do I stay off the train?
How do I stay off the train? So how do you stay off the train? You don't give in to your anger on over the years of the Israelis being protected by our government, our media. Look, one of the ways I looked at this previously, and I wrote a big long post for my patrons yesterday about this, trying to explain it all. I'm going to publish a cleaned up version 2.0 probably tomorrow or Thursday. And the thing to oh God, and what's important, oh my God, I just lost the point I was about to make.
Using a bigger goal, bigger fish. Sometimes you have to align with people you disagree with for something bigger. Don't give in to your anger. Don't give in to your impulse.
Yeah, you can't give in to your anger on this stuff. Right. You can't give in to your anger on this stuff. Because at some point you're going to look at the world and go, you're going to go, yeah, I feel dirty about this, but it's okay. So if you give into your anger on this, you're going to lose the opportunity to see the larger goal. And the larger goal here is to stop this shit at the source. It's not that the United States is on balance something not worth critiquing. It absolutely is. It's got there are plenty of things to criticize the United States government for, and the American people's complicitness in going along with it. But if you can remove the taxpayer funding process of the march through the institutions, and you have to feel a little dirty allowing, using Jewish people outrage. Oh, this is the point I was going to make. One of the ways to look at this is that post-World War II, Jewish businessmen and upper middle class and everything else, rightfully so, was worried about, what happened. What did they do? They bought protection money from the government. They spent money and they bought protection from the government. They went right to the government and right to the media and everything else for their protection money. And God,
why wouldn't you?
Right. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? Just like the Japanese should do the same thing. Just like the Italians should have done the same thing. Blah, blah, just like Germans could have done the same thing.
Sure.
So now they pay good money for that protection racket, like it or not. Doesn't matter whether you like it. Doesn't matter whether you think it's right, moral, this, that, or anything else. They bought protection money. And they expected a return on their investment when it was at the critical moment, and they didn't get it. So you know what they're doing? And this is, again, the part of my point about Title VI and the Civil Rights Act. They're all pulling their goddamn funding of Harvard, Stanford, MIT just had to come out and say, nope, no more DEI or ESG for admissions. But the whole Ivy League is getting defunded because that's where that money went. And as you and I well know and have talked about many times, isn't that a net win since the entire intelligence apparatus is the whole Ivy League is nothing but been a money laundering scam to groom the next
Mhm.
generation of intelligence assets and feckless fucking politicians, traitors, politicians with weird sex lies to
Mm.
destroy our fucking country? And that money is now going away.
Strange
And
bedfellow.
that's why they started cracking skulls at Columbia. It wasn't because they were getting their orders from their Jewish paymasters. The Jewish paymasters pulled the freaking money and they're like, oh, fuck. Oy vey. Now, what did we do?
Mm.
And that's why they called in the, the cops to start breaking this shit up. Had
Mm.
nothing to do with the act or this or the act Congress passed. If you want my honest opinion, was done in order to achieve this effect.
Mm.
When the ACLU is against the act, but the ADL is in favor of it, you can see the
Mm.
situation. Oh, it'll chill free speech on campus. No, it won't. It'll just level the goddamn playing field. They're look, dudes, the Jews are not the only protected class. Are we allowed to talk about the pernicious effect of having women in power and government? Nope. Are we
Mm.
allowed to talk about black on white violence? Nope. Or anything else? Are we allowed to talk about the real problems from having protected certain classes of people under the Civil Rights Act? Again, I'm doing an anarcho capitalist friggin' analysis of all this. Guess what? Every one of these things suck. Why? Because you put government in between different groups of people and then put their thumb on the scale of divide and rule. Why? Because that's what narcissists do. They put two groups against each other over fighting over nonsense and then sit back and go, my work here is done. Let it play out. So why is Nick Fuentes all of a sudden going to get his Twitter account back? We know that guy's. It's like does is anybody confused about this? Did anybody not remember that Richard Spencer is a CIA asset? That Mike Enoch was finally outed as a CIA asset? You think Nick Fuentes isn't? Like you're being gaslit into hating the Jews,
Mm.
and they're taking what is partial righteous anger at the at the inability of us being able to talk about what the real problems are to stabilize our society, and they're turning it into something ugly.
Mm.
And what, and I hate to do this, but I invoked all this on May the 4th. And I said, this is literally Star Wars level foreign policy. Palpatine sitting back there to having everybody fight amongst themselves and corrupt themselves. Good, good. Let the hate flow through you.
Yeah.
I hate to get all geeky about it, but it's right there in front of you.
No, it's for me. It's always been is after COVID. I remember it's right when Russia invaded Ukraine. This is like right when it happened, and that's someone that knew nothing about any of this. I just remember saying, I was like, it. This is like the day after. I was like, it feels weird. We're just coming out of COVID. It feels weird that everyone's on the same talking points. I was like, I don't know what
Yep.
this is. I didn't know what the Azov Battalion was. I didn't know what fucking Wagner was. I didn't know who Zelensky was. I was like, it
Mm-hmm.
just when everyone's cheering the same thing and there's flags everywhere, my spidey senses go up. So the same thing
It's
right
and
now.
as well as should.
And so right now, I probably won't have. Now I can look and I go talk about what Ukraine is and biolabs and money laundering, and now I know all of this shit. But that's this is in hindsight. It might take another 2 years, but I'm sure in May 2026, I'll be looking back. I'll be going, yeah, your gut was right. The fact that there's such a, and I brought it up to I think last night on a game stream. I'm like, it is weird how much the anti-Jew shit is flying on Twitter, and not just like Cletus and the neo-Nazis. No, people are actually talking about like what media ownership and the Kalergi plan, and I'm like, it is. My spidey senses go up
Yeah.
whenever the flow is going, and I'm like, that's this isn't. Mm-mm. It's when the tide's coming in, you should know. Be like, oh, finally the water's rising. It's like it's rising everywhere. It's because there's a celestial body doing it, right? So that's kind of my gut feeling is whatever it is, be it I agree with it or not.
Right.
I just
It's
I
not about
cock an
agreeing with
eyebrow.
it.
No, no, yeah,
Right.
it's just observing,
Right.
going,
It's not about
what is
again,
this?
it's in a place like this, in a state like this, as always, being in the middle is the most dangerous place to be because you're hated by fucking everyone.
Yeah,
And I've been there for the last 23 years of my life since 9/12.
but it's also
On
the most fun spot.
9/12 or 9/13, I walked out of my laboratory at the University of Florida. I was working at the UF at the time, and I heard about 9/11 from one of the asshole other laboratory managers. Hey, you want to see something cool, or you want to see something I don't know, cool. I don't even remember if he said cool or what. He said planes just flew into the into the World Trade Center. I'm like, what? Are you kidding? And I watched it, and I didn't watch it until later that afternoon after they had sent everybody home.
Hmm.
Right. I didn't watch it until later that afternoon. And I finally saw the planes flying into the towers. Happened to be at a Nissan dealership. My wife and I were in the process of buying a car. And I turned to the salesman and I went, I'm having a real hard time not believing that our government wasn't involved in this.
Hmm.
And he went, yeah. And at that point, it was almost like, yeah, I really don't want to sell you a car, you asshole. Um, yeah,
Hmm.
I said that on 9/11 at 3:30 that afternoon. Right now, I was probably, again, I don't know whether I'm right or whether that was right or wrong. That's not the point. The point was I was, I watched this and I'm like, I don't believe any of this. I've read enough Philip K. Dick. It's all the Truman Show. Like,
Yeah.
um, and but then 2 days later, once I started seeing the war rhetoric and how they were immediately turning to it, I walked out of my laboratory. I walked down to the guy just down the hall to his lab just down the hall from me, who happened to be Iraqi and a lovely human being. And I just walked up to him and I said, sir, I'm not going to say his name. Sir, I just want to preemptively apologize for what my country is about to do to yours.
Jeez.
I hope to hell I'm wrong. And he looked at me and he got a tear in his eye and he hugged me. And I said, I hope you're wrong too. I'm like, let's see what happens. That was 9/13, guys,
Hmm.
2001. So I got news for you, folks. I've always been this guy. Okay. I'm not a Zionist. I'm not absolving Israel. I'm like, at the end of the day, anybody who picks up a friggin' rifle is a combatant and deserves what they get. You walked into Thunderdome, dude. Like,
Yeah.
2 men enter, 1 man leave. But if you're a civilian on either side, no.
Yeah.
I'm as outraged at the dead civilians in the Donbass as I am as the ones in Ukraine that are
Sure.
collateral damage to Russia's bombing campaign. Even though I understand why Russia's bombing, what they have to do, what they're doing, and why they and how they've tried to prosecute this war in such a way as to minimize civilian um, impact. But you can't make it zero.
Hmm.
Okay, it's a war, and that war was picked. It was chosen, and we have to deal with it, and we have to deal with it like adults. And adults look at this and go, yeah, our job is to protect the innocent as much as possible. Maybe I was taught this by my dad. My dad left I was thinking about this the other day after while I was arguing through all of this. And I said, I was arguing with myself and people on Twitter and I was screaming in my kitchen about this. And I said, yeah, I remember why my dad left the state troopers in the late 50s, not just because he met my mom and was starting a family and
Sure.
he didn't want to be on call for 2 weeks straight, 24/7, but because they were starting to turn state troopers into ticket givers. And he didn't want to be a highwayman. That was not what he got into policing for. So he moved to the NYPD, became a beat cop, patrolled his own neighborhood. And and every time that it was a moment where he was going to be forced to do something he didn't want to do, he moved to a different place within a different job within the NYPD in order to avoid doing that and still do what he felt was protecting the innocent. I remember him talking about, riots and, what happened during the riots. And I remember, and I said, well, why didn't you arrest these people that were looting and pillaging and all the rest of it? He's like, because for every arrest we make, a cop has to be taken off the streets. So I can't arrest those people because my job is to literally is to protect the people who aren't rioting, whose businesses are being destroyed, whose homes are being set on fire. And and we made that call, which was, to protect those who weren't,
Hmm.
to protect the innocent, to protect the bystanders. So, when I say my dad was a badass,
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Okay.
absolutely.
So that's always my intention in this. And so all I'm doing when I do the big geopolitical look here is I'm trying to minimize the amount of civilian damage at every level. So I don't want to see millions of dead Jews in a pogrom to end all pogroms against Jews over what's happening, over what Netanyahu is doing now in order to do what he thinks is necessary to save not only his political hide, but maybe even Israel itself. I don't want to see Americans lose what's left of their civil liberties through the continued entrenchment of using our tax money to destroy our lives. So if this can finally turn the tide, because remember, the BLM riots were done on public land. They were done on the streets, right? These are organized protests on college campuses, which get federal grant money under the Civil Rights Act to promote, for all intents and purposes, to promote Marxism. That needs to go away. If we're going to retake the institutions, if we're going to rebuild the society, one, we were never going to tear it down from the top down. It always had to be a kind of, well, why don't we wait for the moment where they eat themselves, where they put themselves in an untenable position, in an undefendable position? What have I been saying about the whole woke movement? Eventually, identitarian. It's the old Ayn Rand argument about identitarian politics. If you start subdividing people into little groups and then protecting them, eventually you get down to the individual, because there's no smaller minority than the individual.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you've come right full circle back to, radical,
Yeah.
hardcore individualism.
Yeah.
Right. Well, guess what? This is kind of where they are from a legal perspective, and and at the same time, we're now having the cycle shift back against them. Right. So our job as commentators, our job as thought leaders in this, our job as analysts and podcasters and all the rest of it, we're the new fucking media, as Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan were talking about a couple of weeks ago. Then it's our goddamned responsibility, if not duty, to shut off our emotions, do the strategic analysis, and try and chart a path through this as best we can. Not because we're shills for the other side or whatever. That's your fucking left brain talking. Fuck you. You need to go you need to go take a half an hour walk in the woods, plunge yourself in some fucking ice water and pet your fucking dog.
Yeah.
And listen to some fucking Cranberries or Tori Amos or whatever. Pick some unbelievably right brain music and listen to that shit for a while. My return to center is Marillion. All right? Like, that's what I do. Like, because they make me weep. That's what they do.
I found for me, it's doing the right thing, and that's all well and good. I found even more than that is this overarching my own ego when I look back at old episodes and I see myself on camera, on audio, with like a date, time, hour, minute, second on the bottom. I'm like, there's no like, I didn't say that. I'm like, no, that's me. That's me screaming. Like, so more than anything, I'm like, I just don't want to hate myself. I don't even give a fuck who's watching it. I'm like, I watch episode 203 and I go, oh God, I'm like, I just don't want that cringe feeling. So it's even on like a more core thing where I'm like, I want to be right because I can't lie to myself.
There you go.
And so
there you go.
it's like I don't give a fuck about you're pro anti. I'm like, no. I just don't want to look at an old episode and be like, oh God, oh no.
Yeah, no. Oh my God.
No.
I'm going to stand here on high and say I've never done that. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
There are a couple of times when I'm like, I got done with a live stream and I'm like, oh no, dude, that cannot be seen by the public. Aside from the fact that it's going to get me banned or this or that or anything else, like this is not cool. This is not good.
Well, that's why I let them rip
And
though.
I
I
was
don't take
ashamed
them
of it. I'm
down.
like, I'm done. I have to cut this off. And then people were like, dude, what happened to Tuesday night's live stream? I'm like, I killed it because I lost my shit in public, and I
Yeah.
cannot do that. And you know what you're saying is you want to look in the mirror and go, you're not a hypocrite.
And then
And
and then
that's a noble and laudable goal, but you'll never reach it. You're
yeah,
going to be a hypocrite about something at some point in your life, and you're going to have to just own it and live with it. Again,
sure.
Ian McGilchrist, again, what Ian McGilchrist said last night in this interview that I was watching at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Um, it was, yeah, the thing you're not allowed to be now is inconsistent. And that's a very left brain process that is driven by the response engine that is Twitter and that is social media and whatnot. And the loss of irony and humor and all of these things from our public discourse is the greatest tragedy, because now we can't laugh at ourselves and each other a little bit. We can't do any of that. And we cannot in any way, where we live in fear of being seen as inconsistent. And then we get locked into false paradigms, and we get locked into these really terrible positions that we got gaslit into, and we don't know how to get out of them. And all you can do is apologize in public, but it'll never propagate to everybody.
Yeah.
And so this is a goal. It's not, it's a mission statement, and the mission statements are a goal. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I mean,
Yeah.
I quit smoking cigarettes because I said, I'll quit smoking today. I no longer enjoy these. I walked out on my porch one Saturday night. I went, oh, God, this tastes like ass. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And I stubbed the cigarette out, and I didn't have another cigarette for 9 months.
Yeah.
That was it, because I didn't want to be a hypocrite.
For me,
But
it's like so long as I'm like learning, because you'll never be. I mean, you can't be consistent perfectly. At one point, did you believe in Santa? Did you believe in the Tooth Fairy? Do you not
yeah,
now? You fucking hypocrite! Like, no. It's
yeah,
to me. I look at it. I'm like, knowing what I know now, what do I do moving forward? So
exactly.
even if like my gut instinct is like seeing a bunch of overweight blue-haired dykes getting beaten with a police baton, even though part of me is like, that's so fucking funny. And it is objectively. I
Yes.
do have to go, why is all this righteousness flowing up around me? And why does everyone agree with me in the room? This is not good. This is
Well,
group.
and moreover, what drove that overweight, blue-haired, screaming ninny to that point?
Mm,
The hardest thing for us to do is going to be having empathy for those people.
correct. And go,
It is,
she is so
dude,
passionate
I
about
struggle with it
this.
every
Yeah.
goddamn day. I struggle. I mean, part of me says, you know what? You know, these people, I hate to say it. I don't want to say this in public because I know it's going to be termed the wrong way, but it's like Israel did this to themselves.
Yeah.
They put themselves in this position.
Yeah.
Just like, we Americans put ourselves in this position by allowing our government to run roughshod over us in this way. And now we have to take the opprobrium of the world. But I always come back to the center and say, look, I have the same criticisms, if not better criticisms than you have of America, because I understand America better than you do. But
Mm,
I don't know how to balance staying out of jail or being remanded to Guantanamo or bankrupted and debanked and every other goddamn thing in order to virtue signal uh, my unwillingness to be, my ungovernableness. Do you want that? Because I can go do that.
mm,
And then my wife and daughter are penniless and destitute, and there's no chance that my perspective on the world will can dovetail with yours, and we can figure out a way to beat these fucking people. Like, is that what you want?
mm.
Or do you want to just accept the fact that, yeah, it's all a big shit sandwich? We all have a freaking shadow. We all, we all let it get the better of us every once in a while, because none of us are freaking perfect. Because, there was one perfect man, and we crucified him 2,000 years ago,
Mm,
metaphorically speaking. Whether you believe that story is true or not, or not, whatnot, the story is true. And
sure.
all stories are true, and all stories are fiction.
Mm,
So, don't get triggered by this whole, oh my God, did Tom like all of a sudden become this, raving friggin', you know, Christian? No, I still don't have any fucking clue as to how the universe works.
yeah.
What I'm saying is, metaphorically speaking, we killed the perfect man 2,000 years ago, and we scapegoated him for our sins.
Mm,
And it changed the world, folks. for better or for worse, change the world. I think I think for the absolute better, because the story itself, you know, no longer allows for collective punish for taking our collective angst and escape and putting it onto some external thing and then killing it, which
Mm.
is what we're metaphorically doing when we scapegoat people. Are you willing? Are you going to be willing to stand up 10 years, 15 years from now, if there's a big freaking pogrom of Jews around the world, and be willing to look in the mirror and go, oh shit, I helped that happen?
Mm.
Or were you going to be the one that stand up to be counted and say, no, I'm going to keep my reason and my instinct balanced? Because one can't exist without the other. And at the same time, you can't allow one to overwhelm the other. And an overly emotional response to what's happening in Gaza without taking it into the bigger context of who started it or who's fomenting it. It's not who started it. It's not about whether the Palestinians are right or Israel's right. So that's not what this is about. It's who fomented the conflict, who set the seeds for it, who led themselves willingly to be used as useful idiots for a bigger, grander purpose. Sure, there's blame enough to go around for everyone.
And the very idea of the empathy is difficult when you see that crazy woman with a spike through her nose screaming. It's easy to, I do it, and I'll continue to do it. Just be like, look at this fucking idiot. But yeah, at some point you got to go, that's like legitimate concern. This fat bitch is out there in the rain
Yep.
screaming. She actually genuinely believes that something bad is happening. And objectively, and we can, it's hard to talk about as Americans because she did the war on terror. Objectively, she's not wrong. You can't sit
Mm-hmm.
here and go, well, Israel, it's like, tell that to the 11-month-year-old Palestinian girl that was like vaporized by a JDAM. Like,
Right.
no, that fat bitch is not wrong. It doesn't mean
Right.
that we gotta fucking enact a new law, but you gotta go, she's defending what she thinks is correct. And if it's me sitting across the table with God after I die, am I going to sit there and go, well, you don't understand about, the Holocaust? And then, Netanyahu is going to be like, look at the kid. Like, what were you doing when you were 11 months old? I don't know. I was being held by my mom. You weren't being vaporized by a JDAM. That fat bitch isn't objectively wrong.
Exactly.
So why is she feeling that? Hey, Tom, real quick, tell everybody where to find your show. I got to fucking piss.
You can find me on at goldgoatsandguns.com. You can find me on Twitter, pissing off everybody and getting on everyone's last nerve at TFL1728. You can follow me on Patreon, support the work that myself and Dexter White do over Patreon, Patreon/goldgoatsandguns. You know, we're talking politics and culture and all this stuff today, but we also do, finance and markets and all the rest of it. You guys know the routine. And I'll have to sit here and filibuster while Tommy has to deal with his microbladder. And then at some point, this cigar is going to be, hopefully either this stream is going to end before this cigar is gone, or I'm going to have to do the same thing and go up and get another one, because like I can't do this shit without one of these anymore. But what's it, again, Tommy's not. This is the point that I'm glad that we came to a consensus. That Tommy and I came to a consensus on this, because it is important to remind you, it's not just what's happening. Like I have no patience for people who sit down and block traffic. Like I don't have any patience for people who, no, they are literally, causing the material harm to everybody around them, and they're showing their absolute lack of any sense of community spirit, and they're actually doing something that's completely opposite to what it is that their goal is. Right? All they're doing is turning people against them. You're not going to get people. You're not raising climate change awareness. You're just pissing people off, and you're just making it such that people are just going to start getting angry and beating the fuck out of you. I think my favorite, I don't know if you guys have seen the video of how to deal with one of those guys in the streets. It's the guy in the black BMW who drives up. The guy won't move, so he turns around, turns his car around the backside, and then a back way, then just punches muffler at the guy, and then romps on the freaking gas and blows him off the freaking and blows him off the road. Like that's one way of dealing with it. It's, you want to like poke, you want to like stand there and poke me near me in the chest and say, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. You need to listen to me, you need to listen to me, you need to listen to me. I'm like, fine, fuck you. Here's my muffler. Here's my engine noise. I'm not touching you. Like, I have no patience for those fucking people. I was just ranting about like the climate change guys who walk in and deface private property or put themselves in the middle of a fucking road. Like, that's all bullshit. Like, those people need to be, if I was there, I'd be like, no empathy for you, dude. You're getting my right cross and an elbow, and then I'm going to take your ass and I'm going to dump you over in the side of the fucking road. And I'm going to start directing traffic and get everybody through, because you're doing material harm to everybody around you. You're keeping people from being able to get to work, feed their families, and everything else. As far as I'm concerned, you're in the moral fucking wrong.
And
And the only thing protecting you is the fact that you're on fucking public property. Because this is private property, I had a very goddamn right to kick your fucking ass because you're trespassing.
that comes into the
So we're
complexity
now
of,
we've turned the roads into the tragedy of the commons. Fuck you.
well, that
Like,
comes into the complexity of the empathy. You look at the fat bitch screaming, you go, all right, she's objectively not wrong. But if that fat bitch starts walking on your property and throwing shit through your windows and you have your baby is sleeping upstairs, you're going, hey, I get where you're coming from, but now you got to see where I'm coming from. You're
okay,
harming
ready?
my. So now it gets
Yeah,
weird. You
ready?
got to
I
go,
ready. You get a notice saying it is time for you to leave, because those found here after dark will be found here in the morning.
hmm. So then you got to go, well, where's the victimless crime? And I would argue screaming on a campus is probably the least harmful you can do. If you start kicking down doors and going, free
Yeah, no.
Palestine, I'm going to
Again,
go,
if you want to look, if these kids want to protest on campus, fine.
yeah.
Like, I don't have a problem with that.
And then they are
But at
destroying
the same
property, which
time,
is
like,
where,
you standing there and saying, I hope that what happens to Jews 1,000 times more than what happened to than what happened. Yeah, I hope that what happens to them is 1,000 times worse than what happened happened on 10/7. Um,
yeah, now
I
it's
have no
now,
empathy for that.
yeah.
I know where that comes from.
So then,
That came directly from, whatever the OW the Open Society Foundation version of Emily's List talking points came from.
and
So,
I want to touch on this, and I can keep going. I don't have another show till noon. Is the idea of the kind of like the hard turn back right, which is undeniably
mhm.
coming. And it's not just as a conservative guy, yes, there's part of me that's like, haha, but I also have to like, you said go into the woods, take it deep. For me, it's like meditation. I have to slow down and be like, what am I letting guide me right now? And I've brought it up before. I truly do believe that we're going to see some sort of, I don't know if it's going to be 2024, 2025, whatever. There's going to be at some point, you're going to have some counter coup. This is just what I truly believe. You're going to have
Mhm.
some hard ass admiral general guy that served in Delta Force or some shit, and he's looking at this and he's going, somebody who has half a brain and they understand what active measures are in Soviet Union, the Long March to the Institutions, the 100-year marathon in China. They're going, I know what this fucking is, and at a certain point, ballots aren't going to fix this. And okay, I'm in charge of, or I'm partially in charge of the strongest military the world's ever seen, and I'm just gonna sit here and let this happen. Bullshit. Now, even though I don't disagree, I go, shit is fucked, the people that are going to be doing that, and they might truly believe that they are saving the republic, and they might be. I also think that there's going to be people on that side who are just going, the last 30 years, the vessel for power has been rainbows. Now the new, you're going to see, I mean, you can already start to see it with the
Yep.
frat boys raising the flags. I'm like, as a former frat boy, as much as I love that, I'm like, why is this on the news? Why is a bunch of white guys in khakis no longer Satan? Why are they rah rah America? I'm like, you can see it. You can see we're going to
Hmm.
button up the country. We're going to shut down the border. And by the way, the cops are going to roll in and steamroll protests. How do you get conservatives to be we're being censored? How do you get them to cheer it on? By destroying your enemy. And there might be actually good people that would perform that coup, an admiral, a general,
Yep.
whatever. You're going to have someone above that who is completely devoid of allegiance, and they're going, woke and climate change is no longer the thing. Now it's rah rah
Yep.
pickup trucks, and they're going to go, yeah, fuck it, send it. They
No,
want
no,
power and
absolutely.
nothing more. They don't give a shit what the language is.
Absolutely.
Black, white, Jew, they don't give a fuck. Chinese, whatever you want. Power is power is power. And
That's
that's
right.
what I fear is coming, is a counter
Oh, I
coup.
know. That's what I fear is coming. It,
And
I
people
mean,
going,
dude,
yeah.
if you don't understand, I mean, I keep saying this over and over again. And if you really want to get a sense of just how prescient Frank Herbert was, fucking Dune, you read it. Fuck the movie. The movie is fine. It's a nice little distillation of like 1/3 of what the book was actually talking about. That's what's scary. That's what's truly scary. Okay. That's how far ahead of the curve Herbert was. He wasn't just talking about oil and, and all of this stuff. He was talking about so many deeper things in this. He
Mm.
was talking about um, the deep racial hatred of the and the fundamental conflict in Dune is the genetic imperative to diversify and spread against the forces of control that want to, you know, cull everybody. And I mean, he's talking about all of that stuff. If you really delve deeply into what the Benny Gesserit breeding program is and what this and what that, all of this stuff, and you're like, oh my freaking god! And that's part of the reason why I was so angry that they turned, they turned Chani into feminist Chani, third wave feminist Chani, who's doesn't even like her soulmate Paul. It's all bullshit, right? And that's the thing that undermines the movie for me, and to the point of of almost not even being able to watch it a second time. I will when it comes out, and I'll watch it again. But it's quite frustrating. Um, and I mean that the Fremen Jihad in Dune is the thing we should be worried about because it's going to be justified.
Mm.
It's justified, but it's also wrong
How do you think this?
because you don't and then it creates a power vacuum afterwards that the way to avoid it is of course the real weirdness in Dune, which I don't want to get into, of how to avoid that. But the way it works out in Dune is they just like freeze humanity for 3,500 years, like freeze it in amber and let all of this racial hatred just die out,
Yeah.
and then at the right moment allow it to explode again. But even then it doesn't do any good because the cycle never ends. It just gets more and more perverse, which is the point. I'm rereading the second trilogy now, and it's really, really obvious. So it was really an important piece of it. Maybe in many ways, especially for this moment in time, it may be the most relevant piece of fiction produced in the 20th century. I'm dead serious.
Do you see like 100,000 foot view? I know
Mm-hmm.
we've shared the quote before. Nothing ends, Adrian. Nothing ever ends. But in terms of just shit going on forever, part of me looks at like where we are. Like let's just say human civilizations. Let's say agricultural revolution was 10,000 BC. We'll just call it that. So it's been 12,024 years. You run this simulation a million times. Sure, there are ones where we nuke ourselves and there
Yep.
the asteroid, all that stuff. But just for the ones that survive,
Mm-hmm.
do you really see it statistically ever being anything but this? Like, of course, it's going to be this weird rag held together with bubble gum and duct tapes. And it's like, at the same time, I can order Taco Bell, like out in the Midwest, there are megatons on top of warheads that are just sitting out there. It's like, it is a weird kind of, it's like getting high and being on a plane and being like, oh, fuck, I'm flying right now. Like, there
Right.
is this, like, you're on the edge of this razor. And it's at what point, I'm not saying it's good, but at a certain point, you almost have to be realistic and be like, we're animals. How did Was it ever going to be anything different than this?
Thank you for saying that we're animals.
Yeah.
Because one of the points that Ian McGilchrist was making is that somehow we've taught ourselves that we're machines.
Hmm. Yeah. No, it's
We're not. We're animals.
yeah. You're
Like
right.
we think we're rational beings. We really do,
We're so
and we're not.
impressed when researchers convince like apes how to use like currency. We're like, oh my, or like tools. We're like, they're learning tools. It's like, and now
Dude, I
look at
just
the
saw a thing. I just saw a thing this morning, literally before, like 20 minutes before you and I started recording, of them observing an orangutan going out and using medicinal plants to fix a wound under his eye.
sure. And you
It's
look
like
at that.
they're not stupid. I mean, like
No, no. But so if you and you look at that,
in the wild. This
yeah,
was not. This
yeah.
was
So let's
not.
say,
And this was not a human trained orangutan. This was one in the fucking wild.
okay,
This I found knows that this plant fixes wounds.
now imagine like all you and all the researchers are watching this and we're like, this is crazy. And you see one of them being like, yeah, but they still don't have IDs yet. You'd be like, give it time. Like, shut the fuck up. Like they're start. So that's kind of how I
Within 150 years, and what 150 or 200 years, we've already bred a different culture, different cultures of raccoons.
yeah. So
Urban raccoons don't know how to talk to rural raccoons. They have completely different behaviors because one is adapted to living in the cities, human cities, and one isn't. This is not to say that they can't revert back to being, but their culture is different. They have a different like everything. Their search patterns for food and this and that and everything, all their behavior, their is all different.
but it's like, so when we look at it that point, when we look at it from that point of view, you look at it, you go, yeah, they're doing now. If you watch these apes for 10,000 years and they got to where we are right now, you'd be like, give it time. Like they're fucking figuring this shit out. Like, well, they still kill each other. I'd be like, well, they're apes. So
They're
like
apes,
extrapolate further and like look at us. And I don't mean to like lower the threshold and be like, no, we shouldn't try hard, guys. We're animals. No, no, I don't mean that. But
right?
just to observe it, you're like, I mean, we have like flat screens and 4K monitors, and I can hear planes flying overhead, and there are paved roads and civility, and my neighbor doesn't barge into my apartment and kill me. Like we're doing pretty good. And then you look at skirmishes, you'd be like, yeah, I mean, it's still gonna happen. So that's when I look at it from that point of view, I guess it's like less shocking and terrifying, where I go, in what reality was it not going to be this? This is the bumpy road to whatever, ascendance,
Yeah,
higher enlightenment, whatever.
I agree, Tommy. I've been saying for a long, long time. I came to this conclusion a while ago that look, in the end, humanity is figuring out. It's a riff off of Churchill's quote about Americans. They'll do the right thing after exploring
They've
every other idea
exhausted it.
first.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's the same thing. I got news for you. It's the same thing with humanity and like government systems and organizational systems. Humanity is going to try every bad idea
Yeah.
first, and then they're going to go, oh yeah, that doesn't work. Now we're going to move on to the next one. And that's what every great story, epic story, is trying to tell us. It's trying to tell us how we dealt with the previous crisis period in order to move to the next one and learn a little bit each time. But we
Mm.
always have to go through the crisis in order to learn the lesson.
Mm.
Right. And then what is the Bible? What are all the religious texts and all the great stories and the Iliad and this? They're all trying to tell us the same goddamn thing. Some aspect of why we went crazy in this particular cycle of history and how we got through it to get to the other side, and then have that story try and be the thing that circumscribes our morality for as long as possible. And the more true the story is, the longer the effect it can have over human consciousness and human society. If it's a powerful story that's metaphorically true, it does not matter what the trappings of the story are. Right.
Mm.
As again, my thinking on this immediately changed when I listened to Jordan Peterson in Jacksonville one night talk about the Egyptian creation myth, which is one of the weirdest stories we know of. I mean, it's as weird, if not weirder, than the Iroquois myths or the Norse mythology or the Greek mythology or anything else. It's unbelievably fucking weird, and yet it was a story so goddamn powerful that there's a oops, there's a Freudian slip for you. So friggin' powerful, right? That it sustained a culture for thousands of years before it finally collapsed. That says something, right? And so, same thing with Christianity, same thing with but we all also have to realize that none of these stories have been strong enough yet to contain the crazy within us, the animal within us, or whatever. We still haven't overcome that yet. And but each cycle we get a little bit better at it.
Yeah.
A little bit better at it. Not a lot, just a little bit. That's the way nature works.
Well, it's like what you said earlier about like mission statements and goals. Like my
Mhm.
goal is to be healthy. There are days where I'm not healthy. There are days where I don't go to the gym, but like the percent, at least 51% of the time, I'm going to the gym. Like you're always trying to move forward a bit. And again, I wouldn't say it's any sort of like justification for slacking off, but you give humanity a little bit of a, I don't know, you give it a little more wiggle room when you're like, yeah,
Well, here's the other thing. Why do you see that as slacking off? Why is your why just I'm saying I'm not judging you on this. What I'm saying is maybe you should think about why it is you think that that's slacking off as opposed to
what we're
what you need to do because you've done all these other things. You need to return to center and go and explore some other direction. Maybe
yeah.
it's not slacking off. Maybe you're just working in a different
Yeah,
context.
yeah, no, and that was that button instilled in me. Yeah, you're not a good worker, B. The fuck's wrong
Right.
with you?
Right.
Like, no,
Right.
so I get it. Just take it.
I always used to joke this because there's the old Saturday Night Live skits about the Haitian families, like 40 of them living in in one room in a on the Upper East Side, and they're out trying to outdo each other, kind of like the Four Yorkshiremen skit from Monty Python about how tough they had it when they were children, where they would one up themselves on how many jobs they have. I'm like, I
Hmm.
used to say I was, my family, we were like honorary Haitians. If you didn't have three jobs and we're going to school full time, then you were doing it wrong and you were a slacker. Like
Hmm.
that was literally the you know the ethos of my household. Like, what are you kidding me? Like I don't have time to like play with my Legos. I'm 12. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just that this is part of the reason why I don't speak to my family, or at least the surviving bits of it, because I don't see balance there, right?
Hmm.
Um, and again, that's why my dad was a badass. He reminded me that you take the time to listen to music and you watch movies together and you ingest stories, and at the same time you try and figure out what's happening with the world and you try and keep it all in balance while you go to work, while you provide for your family, while you do all these things, even if you're doing a job you don't like, even if it's you make your peace with serving the greater goal. For him, it was his family, and without any doubt, he sacrificed probably the last the 20 years of his life he didn't get,
Yeah,
dying at 65 because
yeah.
he like every other cop that ever lived, they all live such a stressful life. Their coping mechanism is eating and smoking.
Hmm.
Like, and my dad ate like he wanted, like type 2 diabetes was his mission in life, and he smoked pack and a half of Kents a day
Yeah,
up until the last 4 or 5 years.
yeah,
Guess what? Threw a clot at 65. It was done in 3 minutes.
yeah,
That's it. There are trade-offs.
yeah. That general mind. I mean, the hardest part of my week is not doing episodes. It's not when people ask me like, "How have you done 1,400 episodes?" I'm like, I don't know how not to do it. The hardest part of my week is taking 2 days off. Like
Yeah.
yesterday was an off day. I went to the gym, which I wouldn't normally do on an off day. I did it. I'm like cleaned my apartment, and I was sitting there, and I'm like, fuck, I have like not got enough done. And I'd stopped, and I was like, it's Sunday. Go sit
It's
in a fucking
Orthodox Easter.
chair.
Give yourself a fucking break, dude. Like,
Like all my
seriously.
friends are on video. Like hop on, and I'm like, well, I gotta. And I'm like, I've only vacuumed, and I'm like, I literally was like, shut the fuck up, shut
There you
the
go.
fuck up. Like,
No, Tommy, I'm in the same boat, man. Like, there are days when the world like goes crazy and everybody, and I of course feel the responsibility being in the position I'm in, that people want my opinion on things. And I've had
yeah,
to like say, I'm going to take 48 hours.
yeah. I'll see you in a couple days.
I'll see you in a couple days. I'm not going to react in real time to this because I did that
Yeah.
during Brexit, and I did it, but I was doing it during Brexit because I was trying to learn. I was on the learning path and I needed to do that work.
Hmm.
Right. But now, I'm like, no, I'm going to take, like, I try not to work 9 hours a day anymore,
Yeah.
and I still don't. And by the way, even if I only work six, I still don't have enough time in the day to do everything I need to do. Spend time with my dog, be a husband, be a father, you know, indulge my own proclivities and all the rest of it. And actually, oh my God, getting more than 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's I've gotten a little better at that over the years of the podcast, where I'll be doing like a video game stream. People will be like, "You've got to cover the bridge that just fell in Baltimore," and I'll be like,
Dude, you do
"On,
video game streams. You gotta join me on Guild Wars 2 and we'll stream together. It'll be
oh,
fucking
let's do
awesome.
it, let's do it."
Oh, dude, you just need to play Guild Wars 2 because then you'll
I'm
get lost. You'll never want to work again. The game is that good.
this is how I prove my point. I'm on video game stream. Last night was episode 450. Like I don't these are like 10-hour streams. Like I've been
Oh
that
my
was an
God, dude.
aside I started halfway through the podcast because I was like, this is kind of fun. And even now, like I'll find myself be like, I need to stream today, and I'll be like, do you want to play video games or not? If the answer is no, it's fine not to. I'm like, I gotta put
I
out
mean,
a 10-hour
you guys
stream.
have no idea how much fun it would be to like play to do World v World with Tommy Carrigan. I can already see it. It would be fucking
I'll make a note
hilarious.
of it right now. I'm
Oh
making
my
a note of
god.
it right now.
So
Let's absolutely do that.
I hate to pimp my my other
No,
obsession
fuck
or
that. I
one
don't
of
give
my
a
other obsessions.
no, go
No,
for it,
it's
dude.
fucking great. I mean, I'm dead serious. Like for me, an inveterate bit twiddler and everything else, like and games and you know and gamer, like for me, Guild Wars 2 does everything I needed to do, and I
Mm,
don't have to feel like I've lost time and I'm gonna fall behind or anything else because it's not that kind of game.
yeah.
And it's a game where you know you're just accreting account value and having fun.
Mm,
And
yeah.
it's an impressive piece of design work, by the way, because it's completely opposite of the typical fucking oh my god treadmill.
Yeah.
It's
I,
not.
I
It
will,
there's no gear grind. There's no oh my
skill
god, if I
trees
don't
and
keep up with this,
unlocking
if
and
I don't keep up with this expansion, I'm now a noob again. Blah blah, like
yeah.
the whole like World of Warcraft or you know whatever every game is set. That's all this ridiculous dopamine hit shit that
Yeah.
is unbelievable. You know, Guild Wars 2 is like, well, I incrementally move myself 1% closer to that legendary piece of armor that will take me 3 months to build. And when I get there, it'll be really cool. And then I never have to farm another goddamn piece of heavy gear again. Okay, great. But you have to just like make your peace with the fact that the world is about incremental improvement. It's incremental process improvement. Can you improve the way you play this game, not what you've what you've accomplished.
I think
That's
maybe
the way
my
I play.
I think maybe my single favorite series of because I'll play a game to death, I'll beat it to death, and then drop it. And it might be 50 episodes, 100 episodes, whatever. I think my favorite one was the physics simulator Teardown, where
Huh.
it's just buildings, and it's like
Right, right,
depending on
right.
how good your computer is, you can turn up like particle interaction, how realistic is the collapse. It's great. It's really getting like an AC
Right.
130 and shooting an apartment complex, and like you see all like the furniture falling out of. It's great. It'll slow down your computer, but the biggest map anyone ever made was a 1-to-1 scale of the World Trade Center. And it's like
Wow.
if you fuck with it the wrong way, your computer will freeze. So like
Right.
even if you like shoot a pistol up, they'll slow down and then like a minute later the glass will come down. It's 1-to-1. I set aside, I mean, probably 150 hours where
Whoa.
there's a little one of the little tools you have is a vacuum and it just vacuums up. They call them voxels, but it's a pixel. It's a one by one by
Right.
one.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
I spent 150 hours and I vacuumed up the entire World Trade Center. And people were watching this, they're like, what the fuck? Every time I log on, I just see Tommy sitting there and there's just a and I'm like,
just
just
vacuuming up the World Trade
and if
Center
you
after it
fuck it up and the
exploded.
whole thing collapses, it crashes the computer and you got to start again. So I would start at the 110th floor and just chip away and then vacuum it. And people are like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, I cannot describe to you the satisfaction of getting. And I vacuumed up the entire World Trade. It took, I mean, dude, it took, I'm not kidding, about 15 straight nights of going for almost 12 hours. Just
Okay.
vacuumed the whole thing. And
Okay. So
yeah.
what's really funny about that is, and I've noticed this. My wife is really funny because she watches all sorts of crazy shit on YouTube, right? And you have another stream soon. We need to get going.
Yeah, yeah, we're up.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. We have
No, no,
like
no,
20
no, no.
minutes.
So yeah,
And so
say what you want.
but my wife, like, I don't know, there's a Polish guy who just cleans carpets, really dirty carpets. I don't know if you've seen this guy on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that guy. Like, there's something oddly satisfying about
It is
watching this
amazing.
Polish guy clean carpets, or this woman groom dogs, or this or this guy rehabilitate horses, or
Yeah.
um, crush things
Bricklayers,
in it, or crush things in his. There's a Finnish
hydraulic.
guy that just
Yeah.
crushes things in his breath, hydraulic presses, and then slows it down, like all this kind of stuff on YouTube. And you're like, or the primitive building channels,
Uh-huh.
like the Vietnamese
Yeah.
guys that just go out and like build a house out of mud and sticks and shit. And you're like, that's impressive, right?
Yeah.
And they're oddly relaxing, and you're just watching somebody do. But again, and then she gets mad at me, and she says, "Well, I'm like, dude, I'm like making, I'm making all this stuff in game, and I've improved my, like." She gets back, she makes fun of me, makes fun of me of the day that I called her in to playing Ultima Online all the way back in like 1997 or 1999, whatever that game started, and we had to learn how to make shoes. We had to be bad at it, and I'm like, Camille, look, I'm making shoes. She's like, why don't you go make shoes in real life? I'm like, I turned to her. I go, why don't you make shoes in real life? Why are you watching some Vietnamese guy, you know,
Yeah.
you know, build, make charcoal and like
But
come on,
it's
or a rocket stove or whatever. It's the same, but it's the same thing.
but there I think there's an important lesson in that. And it's one of my favorite quotes. And it's before enlightenment, you struggle by you chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water.
Yes.
That is the bliss, is to just so people are like, why are you doing this? And I'll be like, I don't think you understand like the tranquility that's in my soul as I'm just
That, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
it's just like shut up. I don't give shut up. Are you can you unlock? I'm like, there's nothing to unlock. There is no DLC. That's
There's
it
no goal
all.
here. The
No.
goal here is to vacuum up the World Trade Center.
Raking the sand. Yeah, it's raking the sand.
Breaking it.
And then I would
It's
snap the
them
silence because
argument.
people would come in, they'd be like, "This is offensive." I'll be like, "Shut up, you god!" And then like ban them and go back to vacuuming. But
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I would just a brief moments of Irish anger would punctuate the bliss. But yeah, Tom, let's wrap this one up.
Sure.
Guys, go in the description. You can find the link to his website, his Patreon, his blog, all that stuff. I think your Twitter's in there as well. And yeah, man, good call on doing this. And as always, dude, I appreciate your time and I love talking to you, dude.
Absolutely. And if you do decide I'll send you a link
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get
yeah.
started.
I made a
That'd
note
be
of it.
fucking great, dude. It would be
I would,
it'd be
I would
it
love
would be
to.
a
I'd
blast.
love to game with you. That'd be great.
All right, be great. All right, we'll talk soon, man. Enjoy.
All right, brother. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.